The antidote.
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 Y estás escuchando The Antidote.
The antidote.
The antidote.
The antidote.
You're listening to The Antidote with Dave Hawkins.
With Christian music that doesn't suck.
I've told 1,000 lies to smooth this over. Say I can rise. This is the old me and it's gone forever. I think they're running out of patience, waiting for me to fly. I think they're running out of patience. Jesus, till the day I die. I can feel the rage, watching me waiting on my every love. Can you hear my praise? You can't stop me, this is what I do. This is self-alive. I am determined at everything I do. I think they're running out of patience, waiting for me to fly. I think they're running out of patience. Jesus, till the day I I can feel them watching me, judging me, waiting to say what I will be. Watching me, judging me, waiting to say what I will be. Watching me, judging me, waiting to say what I will be. Watching me, judging me. I think they're running out of patience, waiting for me to fly. I think they're running out of patience. Jesus, till the day I die. I think they're running out of patience, waiting for me to fly. I think they're running out of patience. Jesus, till the day I die.
I'm Dave Hawkins, and thanks for joining The Antidote. You know, I love it when a band isn't afraid to mix two divergent styles of music together. That's certainly the case with our guest tonight, Light the Fire. It was cool being able to speak with Andrew Penland about how the sound of Light the Fire has progressed over the years and why positive lyrics are so important in their music. We also spent much of our time chatting about their album Ascension, which released September 9th. Light the Fire also holds a special place in The Antidote because they created the music for our new show opener for this year. Okay, well, I guess it's really time for me to shut up because we have lots of tunes coming. Enjoy the talk and the music. Andrew Penland of Light the Fire joins The Antidote. Good to have you here, Andrew.
Thank you, Dave. How are you?
Great.
Cool.
Listen, I gotta tell you, I'm a latecomer to the music of Light the Fire. So I only know a few of the details. How about sharing about how the band was formed?
So, okay. So initially, I'm actually the founding member of the band. I was in a band out of Dallas that named System Overload that had a lot of regional success, and we were about to sign a record deal, and things happen with bands as they always do, and it fell apart. Yeah. So it fell apart, and I just wasn't done yet. And over the course of my journey with that band, I had made a lot of contacts with a lot of musicians in our area that I was like, I want to start a band with those guys. So I kind of like assembled a band and named it Light the Fire. And, fast forward 6 years later, we're here where we are now. So that's kind of it.
Okay, well, take us back then to the recording of the Note to Self EP. What were you aiming for on that release?
Honestly, that was just to try to find a sound and get a group of guys together focused in on recording an album, touring an album, and developing a band. No, I don't think any band ever starts out like knowing exactly what you're going to be until you just kind of get in there together and work together as a group. You focus and you form and you experiment. It's kind of like a baby. It doesn't come out of the womb initially like knowing what it's going to be when it's an adult. It's trial and error. And right then it was just kind of like start a new band, record an album, play some shows, and kind of, go in a new direction and see where it would take us.
The funny thing about so many bands is that their original release, like they're totally embarrassed by it. How do you feel about that release looking back on it?
I'm embarrassed about it in a lot of ways. So no, in some ways, yeah, I am. But I mean, like I'm proud of it too because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So, like obviously hindsight's always 20/20.
Well, I'm certainly not embarrassed by the title track from Note to Self. Here it is. The sound of Light the Fire went for a big change between those early EPs and your first full-length Lost at Sea. Because the band fits into a sort of a narrow niche in the metal scene. Electro post-hardcore. How did that come about?
We one of the original members, who was our guitar player on the first two EPs, who was very into the Avenged Sevenfold, Guitar Hero vibe stuff. He decided he wanted to leave the band, and that's partly because he was ready to move on to something else, but also partly because me and Felix, who's our current guitar player now, who's been with me since EP number 1, Note to Self, we were just ready to go a different direction that still incorporated some of the early sounds of Light the Fire, but, started interjecting in the electronic side of stuff. And, also our drummer, Blake, he wasn't on Note to Self, but he came into the band on the Light the Fire EP, our second album. He's really into the DJ EDM side of things. So, he was wanting to inject some of that into it. And when Ryan exited after the Light the Fire EP, it was partly because me, Felix, and Blake were really very focused on, intertwining the electric dance core kind of stuff to it, and then simplifying the music to where it wasn't so guitar driven. It was more vocal beat. That was primarily when I feel like we actually found our sound as what we sound like today.
Well, then I guess that raises the point. What was the reaction from your fans about this change in style?
We lost some, but we also gained a lot more. So, I mean, all of us in this band, we don't want to put out the same record every time. So every time we release something, there's going to be a core group of people that stick with us because they've been there since day one. And then there's going to be some people who they just don't like the next record. But, you're not trying to make the same record twice because you're getting stagnant as an artist when you do that.
Instead of talking about it, let's hear that music transition of Light the Fire. First, Forever Grateful from the Light the Fire EP, then the title track from Lost at Sea.
Forever
This is Andrew Penland with Light the Fire, and you've got The Antidote with Dave Hawkins.
Here comes the breakdown.
You gotta stand up, 'cause one day you will fall. Just keep moving forward, and this day will be made good to you. Keep your head above the water. Don't be afraid of life and fight. 'Cause one day you know you're gonna be stuck with no light. You gotta be the light up in the darkest places, in the tiniest rooms, and in the real small spaces. And just know never to let go. 'Cause whenever you let go, that's when you follow.
We'll talk about not making things the same. You know what really surprised me about Light the Fire was that you did a cover of that early 80s Scorpions tune, No One Like You. I mean, I've got to know, were any of the band members of Light the Fire even born in that decade?
Yeah, some of us were, some of us weren't. So
you're giving your age away.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I'll put it this way. All of us were born after that song came out. I can tell you that right now. But honestly, how that came about is we went and recorded our second EP up in Massachusetts at Zing Studios, which that's where, Killswitch Engage recorded at. A Day to Remember's recorded there. Devil Wears Prada. All a lot of really important metalcore, popcore records have come out of that studio. While we were there, we got asked to do a cover tune from the 80s for a breast cancer benefit compilation. And we all kind of were, sitting around talking about, bands from the 80s that we liked that hadn't really been covered. And the Scorpions came up, and, most of us were like, oh, yeah, that's a song my dad used to, make me listen to, kind of thing. So we decided, well, we want to be on this compilation. It benefits breast cancer awareness and all that, which that's cool. It hits close to home with some of us. So, we were like, okay, let's do No One Like You, just because it's a cool song. And we kind of had a good idea of where we wanted to go with it. And honestly, what's on that cover that's recorded as it is pretty much exactly what we were going for when we decided to go record that song.
And you gave it a real twist because it just gradually builds and builds.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a fun cover for a good cause.
Too long for a man who needs love. I miss you since I've been away. Babe, it wasn't easy to leave you alone. It's getting harder, it's time to let it go. If I had the choice, I would stay. There's no one like you. I can't wait for the night with you. I imagine the things that we'll do. I just wanna be loved by you.
let's get back to talking about that blend of music styles.
Okay.
What happens before you're set at a show? I mean, do you just head up on stage and tell the crowd, okay, dancing on the right side of the venue, moshing on the left?
Not quite. Like, we just kind of do our own thing. Like, and it's, a lot of people know we're known primarily as a fun band live. Like, we're not that band that's, like trying to be the tough guys, nothing like that. Like, you come to a show, we're known for having a good time on stage. You can see the way we interact with each other, we interact with the crowd, all that sort of thing. And even going back to like the Note to Self era where we sounded more like the Guitar Hero twin lead kind of band, we used to always come out to like a rap song or a top 40 pop song or whatever as an intro, just because, like if you can get the crowd dancing and moving a little bit, that fun, like, vibe in the air, it's going to make for a great show because everyone's in a good mood at that point.
Okay, well, if it's just for fun that way, then when you're building the songs, creating them, are you being serious about it, or is it just a fun time again?
That part, we are very serious as artists. Like, I mean, and you can dig into the lyrics on stuff and see that. Part of it is we view the music thing as a very emotional experience. You go to a live show because you're there to have fun. You're interacting with other people, and, typically, some people are drinking, and, it's kind of a party environment. That's what a live show is. But, like, when you're writing and creating music, like, that's coming from an artistic point of view. That's a very serious nature because you're expressing yourself emotionally in a way you might not be able to speak about necessarily face to face.
Does that ever make you uncomfortable?
It's scary, yeah. When you're writing the song and you're feeling an emotion, like you admit things through your music that you might not want to talk about to your best friends or your family or anything like that. Yeah, it's definitely putting yourself out there, especially when it may not be just your friends and family that hear it. It might be the whole world for all you know.
Because I will feel right, 'cause I still I know I should've, but I just can't handle
Okay, we've been talking about recording. Now, Light the Fire have just released the new album Ascension. Is there a difference between what's on Ascension compared to your previous full length?
100%. Yeah, I think it's very different in the fact of we've touched on a whole lot of topics lyrically that weren't on Lost at Sea. Lost at Sea, we were, kind of opening Pandora's box a little bit, like, peeking into it with, what we were willing to let out, like, through our lyrics. And Ascension is just, like, busting it wide open, and it's full throttle, like, here's some problems we've all experienced in our lives as band members and as people. And some of it's really ugly, and some of it's really dark. But at the same time, it's all written from a positive perspective to try to let people know they're not alone.
Well, because that's what I was finding with the album. I found the tracks on Ascension seemed to switch from being quite uplifting to being a downer and then back up again. I mean, it's almost bipolar.
Right. And within this band, you've got a core group of guys that have dealt with depression and, addiction and all those things. And we've pulled ourselves out of it. But at the same time, music, that's been a centerpiece for all of us in this band of our lives. And music helped heal and get all of us through those dark times. And when we were sitting around talking about what we wanted to do on this next record, we were like, it would be cool to write the record that the 16-year-old kid that's going through those dark times that we all went through listens to, and it helps him through or helps her through. And we aren't pretentious and arrogant to think that, we're just the next big rock gods or anything. That's not what I'm saying. Like, even if it helps one person, like, have a better day and understand they're not alone, and it's a common struggle for, multiple people. Maybe if it helps them and gets them to where they need to be, then we've done our job.
I think that really comes across on the lead single from Ascension, Strong Mind, Fragile Heart. I mean, it's a killer track.
Thanks.
The song talks about building up people who are beaten down. So when you were talking about recording this, that was coming from a personal perspective?
That song in particular is not from my personal perspective. But what I can tell you is I do relate to it. And when several of my other members brought those lyrics and that whole thing to the table, it was an instantaneous, like, yes, 100% yes. That's actually the lyrics about the guy in the first verse and the lyrics about the girl in the second verse. Mm-hmm. And all that actually pertains to real life events that happened to two of our band members and people they know.
Wow, that's a tough deal.
It's as honest as it gets.
Uncomfortable, let's get him here, we search to fit him. He wanders aimlessly and there's nowhere to fit him. Self-medicated to the point that he is someone else. It's been so long since the last time that he felt. I want to take off the ways no longer himself. And don't let the thoughts of failure inside get to you. You're capable of doing anything that you want to. Until you find yourself.
I've got to ask about the name of the opening song for the album. I did some checking online about NPWF, and all I came up with was the National Partnership for Women and Families, or the Nigeria Professional Wrestling Federation. Now, I've got to guess that neither one of those have anything to do with the song.
Well, we are a bunch of Nigerian wrestlers. So
okay, that explains it.
That's it. So no, it stands for something personal for our band, and whatever meaning you want to attach to it, go for it.
Okay, I like the wrestling.
Okay, cool.
It's got a lot more zip than just the thing about families.
Yeah, there you go.
Talking about the songs and saying how, some were so positive and some fell into a negative context. And I really guess an example is the song Entity. It has lyrics that read, "I fell in love with an entity that can't be felt or seen. Lately it's been the only one that's there for me. I think the point of no return is where I'm uncomfortable. So let's face it, I will be the one who never learns." Man, that's depressing.
Yeah, that song is completely about addiction and how it can rip you apart. Like I said, everybody in this band has struggled with something of that nature before and has come out on the other side. That was an expression of, that rock bottom place you can hit. Nothing else matters except that one thing that's controlling your life at that point.
Well, to follow up on that, it seems like the title track, Ascension, is actually a counterpoint to Entity.
You would be correct. Ascension is when you hit that rock bottom and you realize there's more to life than this. Now, granted, Ascension can be taken two ways, and honestly, it was written from two perspectives. From one perspective of where, like you take the lyrics of a song like Entity, where you've hit rock bottom. When you go to Ascension and you read those lyrics, it can be taken from the perspective of someone who's at rock bottom and you're looking to, a higher power or, God or what have you to pull you out of it because, it can't be your fault. Like as an addict, it's everyone else's fault but their own. They put themselves there. So whereas Ascension can also be taken from the perspective of you found meaning, you found God, you found religion, you found hope, and you appreciate that because of where you had been at rock bottom, and what the lyrics of Entity deal with.
What about the Ascension album? Is there an overall impression Light the Fire wants the release to have on listeners?
Just a complex array of emotions. Just understanding that, life is a very ugly thing to live sometimes. And as human beings, we're flawed. I mean, we are terribly flawed. And you're going to make mistakes and you're going to go down the wrong path sometimes and you're going to, hit that rock bottom. But that doesn't mean it has to be over. And it's okay that some days are going to be bad days because there are going to be a lot of good days too. And not to beat yourself up too much about it, even though you want to, because you're a human at the end of the day. You are going to screw up. It's just nothing's the end of the road. You just got to keep fighting. One of my personal favorite movies is Rocky Balboa, the last one, where he's talking about it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's essentially what this album's about. And no matter how dark the night can get, there's always a sunrise tomorrow.
That was the darkness found on Entity. For the bright side, here's Ascension.
from the atmosphere around me. It's hard to believe that this was all a part of a grand design. I question my part in this world and question my existence. If you're real for once, I would like to see a sign. I don't know what else I can do to be the man you want me to. If you're so knowing, then reveal yourself, show me the truth. I know this mindset is sick and it's twisted. How could I ever deny your existence? Just give me a sign. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even worth it. The people I love the most don't deserve it. And help me this one time. Single footsteps in the sand remind me I'm all alone. Following a path by myself into the unknown. I know that faith is something more than just what can be seen. I realize the single footsteps is where you held me. I know this mindset is sick and it's twisted. How could I ever deny your existence? Just give me a sign. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even worth it. The people I love the most don't deserve it. And help me this one time. I'm self-abusing, I'm a masochist. Miserable, feeling inadequate. 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 I know this mindset is sick and it's twisted. How could I ever deny your existence? Just give me a sign. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even worth it. The people I love the most don't deserve it. And help me this one time. I'm self-abusing, I'm a masochist. Miserable, feeling inadequate. I'm self-abusing, I'm a masochist. Miserable, feeling inadequate.
There was the title track from the new album Ascension from Light the Fire. As I usually do, I try to squeeze as much music as I can into the Antidote 60-minute time slot, and I'm really running out of time. Next week, we're going to meet with a band who put out 5 incredible albums in a single year. And if you like the Ramones sound, you're going to enjoy Huntington's even more. No joking, this band is amazing. Be sure to tune in. Okay, back to the task at hand. Here's the final part of a really fun conversation with Andrew of Light the Fire and his pick for our final song. See you next week. It's funny that you brought up that analogy of using the movie Rocky Balboa. In the film, Stallone is really playing an aging sports figure who's actually a mentor for almost every younger person in the neighborhood. Do you think that would also fit with you?
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, all of us in this band, you know, we're not teenagers by any means. You know, we've been around the block a little bit, and but we all were those teenagers, and we all, you know, went through a lot of different things that have brought us here. And it doesn't seem like that long ago at all that, you know, all of us were struggling with, you know, being a teenager and being depressed and all that. And I mean, we still all deal with it, you know, even mid-20s, you know, and it's kind of one of those deals, like, it's just wanting to let them know and let people know overall, actually, that it's going to be okay. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You're always going to be struggling with this, but you're not alone. And, it will be okay.
Before we finish our talk, I really want to learn about the band name, Light the Fire. What kind of a fire is the band trying to light?
Good question. When we named the band Light the Fire, the whole point, it's like self-belief and self-preservation. Ascension, I really feel like, is our coming out album. Like, we've really achieved what we were setting out to do, message included. So I think Light the Fire and the lyrics on Ascension go very much perfectly hand in hand and corresponding. When we named the band Light the Fire, it was about, not looking for outside approval and, self-worth. It was looking within yourself and lighting that fire within yourself to go out into the world and, make a difference starting with you. Not, looking for other people to make it happen. It's about you. If there's something you want to see done, you be the change, and lighting that fire within yourself, and then, passing on that flame to other people. Because, if you can go be a leader by example and other people see that and they want to be like that, you can make a massive change just from starting within yourself and believing in yourself.
Andrew, I'd love for you to do something. What about choosing a Light the Fire song to close the show, and tell us why?
Not the only one is the one I would pick. And the reason why is there is a lot of depth to that song lyrically. We actually just released a lyric video for it as well. But it's in a world today where, broken families, unfortunately, are more common than not. Like, anyone who's been through something like that will probably 100% be able to relate to this song, as well as giving props to the people that weren't necessarily, the biological parent, but they stepped up and, loved you like a child.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, it's been great having you and Light the Fire on The Antidote. Listen, thanks a lot for coming on and talking about your music and the new album, Ascension.
Thank you so much, Dave. I really, really appreciate it, man.
He stepped in when you wouldn't dare. He loved me when you did.